I came from the dream time, from the dusty red soul plains. I am the ancient heart, the keeper of the flame. I stood upon the rocky shore, I watched the tall ships come. For 40,000 years I've been the first Australian.
Australia is a country of paradoxes. Here birds laugh, mammals lay eggs and raise babies in pouches and pools. Here everything may seem familiar, yet somehow it's not really what you're used to. It is, by world standards, a young Western democracy. It was colonised by the English at the edge of Asia. This was in the days of the so-called 18th century European Enlightenment, when the English Parliament was seeking a place to send an ever-expanding, embarrassing community of petty thieves and criminals. This included children endeavouring to survive the injustices of the expanding industrial age. Australia's evolution is told in the stories of its Indigenous people who inhabited the land from a time of dreaming when the heady scent of wattle and eucalyptus filled the cool night air. It is told against the backdrop of a wide brown land whose raging rivers in full flood revitalised the earth. Its evolution is told in the sunlight bouncing off the iron roofs of buildings, such as the first house built for the first English governor, Captain Arthur Phillip. He laid the foundation stone within 4 months of sailing into Port Jackson on January the 26, 1788, with the first fleet. Its 6 rooms eventually overlooked a safe harbour anchorage, a freshwater stream, makeshift huts and tents. It was not very sophisticated, but against a background of an environment the Indigenous inhabitants had never disturbed, it was an assertion of culture in the colonies. In 1810, Government House, Sydney, was put into a complete state of repair to welcome Governor Lieutenant Colonel Lachlan Macquarie and his wife Elizabeth. As soon as he arrived, Macquarie set about an ambitious program, including public works, improving roads, encouraging exploration, and the creation of the colony's first bank. He organised a school for Aboriginal children, a village at Elizabeth Bay for the Sydney tribe whose land had been seconded, a farm at George's Head, and a sort of durbar to be held annually at Parramatta. From his rural residence at Parramatta, where he and Elizabeth spent time away from the crime and unsanitary conditions of the earlier Sydney settlement, Macquarie established a string of townships around Sydney, which within 2 decades of settlement contained a fine array of buildings, a number of which still stand today. When celebrating the establishment of Windsor, Richmond, Castlereagh, Pitt Town and Wilberforce, he recommended to the gentlemen present to exert their influence with the settlers in stimulating them to lose no time in removing their habitations, flocks and herds to these places of safety and security, and thereby fulfil my intentions and plans in establishing them. Not many colonists had an appreciation for the Gothic, which was enjoying a revival in England as part of a cult of the picturesque. Its battlements and pointed arches adorned a few houses in the colony, while Governor Macquarie planned a new government house, imperial in scale, but Gothic in style. The only building completed, however, as part of this scheme was the stables. They would not have shamed a substantial estate back home and enjoyed views to the west over the town and over the harbour to the lighthouse on the eastern horizon. Elizabeth Macquarie designed Parramatta Church's towers. Her participation in architectural affairs was a natural extension of the female artistic role, defined in 1831 by the Foreign Quarterly Review. It suggested that women study architecture not in order that they may be able to draw columns Well, that is merely the means, not the end of the pursuit. But they may thereby cultivate their tastes and ground it on something less baseless and sifting than mere feminine liking and disliking. Scottish botanist, designer and editor John Claudius Loudon, whose encyclopedia of cottage, farm, villa architecture sold very well in Sydney and Hobart in Tasmania, agreed. If the study of landscape drawing by ladies has led to the improvement of landscape gardening, why should not the study of architectural drawing on their part lead to the improvement of domestic architecture? Why not indeed? All of this might seem a little bit silly and trifling to us today, but at the time it was an extraordinary manifesto of a maturing culture in the colonies. In the years between the arrival and departure of the Macquaries in 1821, New South Wales changed vastly, especially in the architectural tastes and attitudes of its people, who now included many free settlers looking forward to a new life in a new land. In 1825, former naval Captain Piper, appointed a magistrate by Governor Macquarie, built his Henrietta Villa in a style that eclipsed the governor's house. For 4 brief years before her husband's fortunes declined, the house's namesake Henrietta entertained all of Sydney's polite society. In 1835, 24 years after Elizabeth and Lachlan Macquarie had left Australia, his dream of a Gothic-styled government house built of Sydney stone and Australian cedar was realised. In April 1884, Oxford-educated lawyer and ornithologist John Cotton and his wife and 9 children constructed a large house of sawn timber in the Australian countryside. Like many others, he benefited from the changes the Macquaries had begun. We now have been resident in our new house 5 weeks and find it every comfort that we would enjoy in the same style of house in England, and perhaps more, there being no rent or no taxes to pay. Within 100 years of settlement, life in the colony had become very civilised, and culture in the colonies a reality.